Live from Paradise Studios in New York, Strong Island Television presents Under the Radar, starring Randy Unger. Brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Tonight, we're going to be interviewing filmmaker actress Cherie Patterson of the new action thriller Londyn and James. We're going to also be reviewing the new films Astronaut and The Lion King with special guest critics Amanda Vasquez, Jennifer Cové, and Nick Comando. And now, here's your host, Randy Unger.
Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and this is another edition of Under the Radar, where we talk all things film. And right now I have on Skype, actually, filmmaker and actress of the new action thriller Londyn and James, Cherie Patterson. Cherie, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Pretty good. Doing great.
Good. Not too hot where you are, I hope.
Actually, the heat index is at 116
with
the humidity,
Oh,
so it's a little toasty.
Gotcha. Well, we'll keep this relatively brief then. So Londyn and James, I didn't get a chance to see the film, but it looks really cool from the trailer and the images. Tell everyone, how did the film come about?
So Jeremy, who is the other director and also star of the film, he plays James. We worked on a previous project together, a web series called Let Go. And we really just clicked and creatively, and we just started thinking, hey, maybe we should do, a film together at some point. That was 3 years ago, and then just this past year, we were like, hey, let's knuckle down and do this film. And so the past 3 years, we've basically been texting each other every time we had an idea for a scene or a new plot twist or something like that, and we finally put it to paper.
Cool.
And put the script together. We wrote it last June, I want to say, and then did casting in December, and then we started filming in January, and just finished filming probably about in April, May-ish time frame. It was kind of all a blur. And it's in the post-production process. We're putting the finishing touches on it right now. I was just speaking with the editor. Okay. And it's getting ready to premiere next Sunday. So nice. We're really excited.
Awesome. And tell everyone, what is it about? What's the premise?
So Londyn and James are a gunslinging couple. They kind of have their own way of interpreting the law and what they consider to be good. So they don't like gangs, they don't like drugs on the streets, they don't like violence, but they have no problem using their own form of violence to enforce that. So they're kind of like your Bonnie and Clyde type vigilantes. Nice. And so one day their best friend, childhood friend, gets killed from apparent gang violence. And so, as I said, they keep the streets pretty clean, and so they go on this absolute rampage to try and figure out what type of gang is, lurking among the streets, and try and put a stop to them and get revenge for their friend. Sounds pretty ambitious.
Was this your first feature?
It is my first feature. I've done several shorts, but this is definitely my first feature.
Cool. And were any of those shorts basically a preamble to this?
No, I have not done anything like this before. I did do all of my own stunts in this one, and the closest thing that I came to doing my own stunts previously was I actually played Harriet Tubman for the national documentary that's going to air this fall at the Harriet Tubman National Underground Railroad Museum. Wow. And they had me out there, I was driving mules and cutting logs and running through the trees in the forest with this super long rifle. It was taller than I was, and that's the closest I'd ever come to doing my own stunts. But I've been trained in it's called MOUNT, which is Movement over Urban Terrain. I have a lot of military training, background, firearms training, stuff like that. So it's all very practical. So I knew what to do when I got on set. It's a little different. We were doing it for the camera. Some of the safety things that you would consider don't look good on camera.
Yeah.
So I had to change a few things up a bit, but we just went out there. There's a few other folks who've done a lot of action films locally in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area.
Okay.
And so they joined in, and we just shot the movie.
Wow. So Harriet Tubman and then this film. That's pretty crazy. Very different genres.
Very different. Yeah, I try to do as many genres as possible. I actually just finished filming a short film where I play the human version of Alexa. So Alexa kind of comes to life, and so I had to essentially play a robot, which was really, really difficult. Usually my characters are very expressive, and this time I had to stifle all emotion. So that was actually one of the harder roles I think I've ever had to play.
Wow. That sounds a little bit like the Joaquin Phoenix movie Her. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yes, yeah, it's very similar. Yeah.
Cool. And are you filming that now, or is that coming out soon, or?
That should be coming out soon. We just wrapped, actually yesterday. So that will probably, the editor was already like, yeah, we're halfway done with editing the first half that we filmed last weekend. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really quick. So it should be coming out later this summer.
Okay.
But I think they're going to try and put it through a few film festivals first.
Good. Perfect. Now back to Londyn and James. It seems like a very physical movie. What were some challenges you guys faced on set?
A lot of it was just making sure everyone was safe and practicing safety. We did have prop guns on set. There was no real danger there. But when it comes to people doing hand-to-hand combat, and some folks were doing flips and everything like that, making sure that everyone was just basically safe and knew what they were doing with that. So we tried to make sure that we had folks who are I would consider stunt professionals, or have been training for that on set, and that was probably one of the bigger challenges for the set. Yeah.
Okay. And now, what was the casting process like?
So we had a huge cast. We had over 50 cast and crew for this is pretty low budget film, so that was a pretty amazing feat. But we basically had a couple of friends in mind. We're like, hey, we're filming a movie. And then once we really looked at how many characters we had developed in the script, it was like, we're going to have to hold casting calls. So we held casting calls, and we had about 45 to 60, I would say 45 to up to 60 people expressed interest and came out for the casting. So that made everything a lot more easy to try and fill some of those roles, because I was sitting there thinking, where are we getting, this goon from, and where are we getting the bartender from, and all of this other stuff. And the people came out in droves, and it was actually a relatively easy casting process.
And were those casting processes in Virginia or Maryland?
They were in Maryland. But we do have people from all over. We actually ended up casting someone who lives in Atlanta, and she plays Detective Evans, who you don't see too much in the trailer, but she has a pretty big role to play coming up. Her name is Natia, and so she actually flew up from Atlanta to do her scenes after submitting a video audition. So we were like, hey, come on up. We'll pay for your hotel and everything like that. And she's flown up.
See, I love that. That's dedication to the craft.
Yes, absolutely.
So what do you hope audiences take away from Londyn and James?
So overall, it was more so a experiment for me personally. This is my very first time being behind the camera and directing. It's something that I've thought about doing for a while. And so I kind of wanted to see what that was like. Also with producing and all of the work that goes into it. There's just so much that I really didn't even, you don't think about as an actor. And it was absolutely tiring and super rewarding. And ultimately, we want to be able to put Londyn and James through a few film festivals, mostly focused on like the action genre, drama, crime thriller type film festivals. Maybe win a couple things, or at least get in. and then eventually put it on streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, the usual suspects.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, I just saw the 1-minute trailer, and there's bullets flying. There's like martial arts going on. It's nuts. Who are some of your influences in the action genre?
So I draw a lot. I like the female badasses of the world. So like Emilia Jovovich's, and so I love Fifth Element, and
Nice.
Scarlett Johansson, and Zoe Saldana
Nice.
as she was playing Gamora for Guardians of the Galaxy. And so I really tried to channel that inner female action star, which is becoming a lot easier, thanks Marvel. For that scene in game,
Right.
and for Jeremy, he's one of like the sweetest, nicest people on the planet, and he's always playing a villain just because he's just a large, just mean-looking individual.
Oh.
And so he just pretty much uses his kind of like his size, like his brute strength,
Right.
and kind of comes up with like his own style for that. So I focus more on, since it is my first action film, more so learning and watching several action films with female principal characters, and he just kind of has been doing it for a lot longer than I have, and he's really developed his own style.
Okay. So what was the fight choreography like on this film?
So like I said, I've had like some combat training previously, and so for the scenes that I would choreograph with my partners, we kind of stuck to that in more of like a military fashion. So I have some experience with Krav Maga, and so I borrowed a little bit from that. And then Jeremy, as he was doing some of his choreography, was more so just like street fighting, like just straight up, I'm going to shank you however I have to shank you. Like, very little technique when it comes to that, but he got some great shots from that. So, yeah, really, my side was more on the martial arts just because I am more fun size.
Okay.
I won't say I'm short or small, I'm fun size.
Okay.
And so I do have to use, technique. You'll see in a couple of the trailers, like London's jumping off of walls, and that's so she can, get that height advantage. A little bit of surprise techniques as well. And just basically, how can I get the upper hand strategically? So we always kind of try to keep that in mind of making it realistic that a 5'2", 100-something pound chick is beaten up on. We have a guy named Cherie who you'll see, and he is 6'5" and weighs probably about 280. And
Jeez.
We get into an altercation. So,
Oh God!
trying to figure out, all right, how would she actually outsmart
What
him?
business do you have fighting a 6'5" man? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was probably one of the more fun sequences to film. We did it in a stairwell.
Oh God!
So we had very tight quarters to play with, and so it was probably one of the more challenging ones of you see Londyn really trying to think her way through what she's doing, just because it is a lot tighter quarters. But also Cherie, one of the sweetest people ever.
Nice.
And so anytime we'd finish and maybe he's throwing me against a wall or throwing me on the ground or something like that, he's like, "Oh, are you okay?" Like as soon as we all cut, I'm like, "I'm fine.
Nice. Just go with it. So I'm curious, are there any other genres that you'd like to work in that you haven't worked in already?
My next, conquest is going to try and be comedy. I've done dramas, and the drama right now that is doing very well in film festivals is called 4 Points. We actually just won yesterday at the Cine Odyssey Film Festival in Charlotte.
Nice.
And I've done a lot more serious type roles, and I don't think I'm really that funny, and so that's why I want to try it.
Do it.
And see my hand at comedy and work on timing and different stuff like that. So I've just been kind of branching out, trying to find a couple of different comedy projects while I'm sticking with my old faithful drama.
Nice.
And moving from there. But I want to do comedy, and then I want to try and continue to do action films. I've always imagined myself doing like action films since I was like 4 years old.
Nice.
So
very good.
I want to. Now that I've cut my teeth, I want to keep going.
Do it.
Yeah.
So tell everyone when is Londyn and James coming out? Where can they see it? Stuff like that.
So we are doing a red carpet premiere in Linthicum Heights, Maryland, which is just south of BWI Airport. So it's going to be next Sunday at 6 p.m., so right around the same time as this show right now. Mm-hmm. So we have like VIP tickets, and we're going to have the red carpet, and we have several media folks showing up, and so you get to get your picture taken. We'll have a lounge, memorabilia, we're going to have a silent auction. And then we'll premiere the film, and then depending on the success of the film, and because we're trying to put it through film festivals, they do have restrictions on how many times you can air it, and so we can only air it usually up to 2 times. So depending on the success of this premiere, which it looks like we're almost sold out of our 350 seat theater.
Okay.
So we may do one more in a different location. Either right now I'm in Norfolk, so doing several projects down here. So we may premiere it down here, a little bit further south, or we may go up to New York. We have a lot of contacts, like you.
Now that sounds like an idea.
Yeah.
That's good.
Bring it on up north.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we'll try and see how that goes, and then once we go through the film festivals, we're just gonna go for the highest bidder, or ultimately the goal is to get on Netflix.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that goes. So.
Sounds good. Well, Cherie, I want to thank you so much for your time today. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got you. It's been a while. Cool. Well, we're going to take actually, before I say goodbye, if you're ever in New York, we'd love to have you stop by the studio for maybe an in-person interview.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I will, my 4 Points, the film I was just talking about, will actually be in New York for the Hip Hop Film Festival August 4th.
Okay.
I'm going to try and make it up to that, but literally the next day we also have to be in Martha's Vineyard for a film festival that we're going to be in. So might end up skipping New York on the way in, but we might try and swing by on the way out. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, we'll talk. Well, Cherie, thanks so much, and stay cool. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure, anytime. Take care now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, guys, we're going to take a short commercial break, but we'll be back with our film review segment right after this.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Patent pending, interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com/gemgirl or call 718-268-6634.
And we're back. Hey guys, I'm Randy Younger, and this is Under the Radar. And I've got some familiar faces today. Amanda Vasquez, hello.
Hi.
Jennifer Cové, hi.
Hello.
And Nick Comando.
I don't know where I am.
You're safe. Just know that. You're okay. All right, guys. We've got as usual, two different movies, two very different movies. But I like both of them. They were very well made, each of them. We'll start off with the lesser known. It's I guess you'd call it an indie dramedy, not even indie, but a smaller film. It's called Astronaut, and it stars Richard Dreyfuss as a 75-year-old man. He's an engineer, and his dream has always been to go into outer space. So he lies about his age. They want younger, so that he can enter this lottery to go to space. And it sounds like a ridiculous premise, but I thought it was really good, really well made, and he was fantastic in it.
I thought he was great.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Richard Dreyfuss.
Me too.
Ever since Jaws.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but Amanda, what did you think?
I liked it. It was adorable. It reminded me of, especially in this day and age with a lot of the baby boomers in their older age now, there's so many things that they want to do, they've wanted to do and probably didn't get a chance to do.
Yeah.
And it speaks to what they're going through. Like, there's so many chances that they want to get done.
Yeah.
If they had their health, they want to go out and do it. So it was a really sweet movie. I liked it.
The title should have been Second Chance or Liftoff.
It was adorable. And
it was cute.
He encompassed
Yeah.
that grandfather vibe.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. I think,
was so
it
cute.
was just, we were just talking before about how, like, there's not a lot of original ideas anymore, and
Yeah,
I've never
yeah,
quite seen anything like this.
Yes,
so
Yeah, it was
true.
cute.
Yeah.
Very true.
Nick, what'd you think?
Oh, it was interesting because like I connected to it on like a different level because it's, you know, like the overarching part of the movie for me was that he was being put in a home because he couldn't live by himself.
Yeah.
And living with family was just untenable. He, you know, his daughter would, you know, focus too much on him and his, you know, there was a whole, I guess, sort of backstory with the mother that she sort of put all these things on hold to take care of the mother when she didn't really have to. They could have taken this route earlier.
Yeah. There's a lot
And-
of tension between them.
Yeah, and like, you know, my last remaining grandparent got put in assisted living recently, and my parents are going through a whole thing with that. So that connected to me on a different
Right.
level because I know what that's like and I know how difficult that can be.
Okay.
So that to me was another part of it. You know, there's the whole way of the whole idea of age and just handling, you know, an older parent who wants to do things but kind of can't. You know, there was like a little bit of underlying pride in him where he didn't really seem to want to be. He didn't want to be a burden, but he also didn't want to admit that he couldn't do things.
Yeah.
He like
Right.
didn't have a place in society.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he didn't want to
Which I
admit
think
that he
happens a
didn't
lot
walk
anyways. I mean,
Because they don't want to
that's-
accept
Yeah.
that.
Right, of course.
Like,
Nobody wants
he
to
couldn't
accept
live with
that.
the family, and he couldn't be in the home, so he
Yeah,
went
and-
into outer space.
Yeah, in today's day and age, it's a lot more about, you know, my father is 80 years old. He can't live by himself. I work. I do this. I do that. We have to put him in assisted living where there's, you know, all these opportunities to put them somewhere where they're not directly with their family.
Exactly.
And that's a very heavy topic. They touched on it.
Yeah.
You know, like with Graham
But
Greene, the guy in the wheelchair.
They did that very tastefully for me too, where it wasn't too much like they didn't do it in a manner so that like you felt bad
Heavy-handed.
for him
Yeah.
and you hated his
family.
child for
Right.
doing
Yeah.
it.
Right.
So that to me was very tastefully done. And then he was just the ultimate kind of guy that you root for. Like you want to see him go into space. And the twist that was in it for me, I thought was very smart too, where it wasn't just about him going into space. He wanted to make sure that it was done properly.
Right, with the runway and the
Yeah.
he's an
Yep.
engineer and he wants to make sure everything is up to code.
Right.
People
That was
were
cool.
effectively writing him off, like, yeah, okay, old man, we did this. Go away.
Exactly.
I didn't know that was
Exactly.
going to be like a subplot, that
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
runway stuff.
That to me
They had
felt
a
like
lot
the
of
point
little
of the movie more than
subplots,
anything
though.
else.
Yeah.
That was good.
Like he effectively like saved lives without
Exactly.
I think that's
doing
what made it
anything.
like realistic, though, is like
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people who are in a power position, let's just say, like they forget that there are people who have, like he had already experienced his whole life
Who
before
has
this
that whole
person.
knowledge
Yeah,
about all of this
exactly.
stuff
But
already.
you always assume like, or not always, but a lot of people assume like old people, like oh they don't know because they're not technologically as advanced as
Yeah.
us or whatever. And
And I feel like that was the exact reason why he was able to save people
Exactly.
And
because
they
he
also
wasn't
depend-
focusing
He
wasn't
on
thinking that way.
technology.
An
Exactly.
outsider.
He
Yeah.
was doing the old school and
Right.
thinking about it.
yep.
And plus, like these people that own these giant companies, they put their trust in. Well, you know, it's a
computer
lot of
says
bureaucracy
this.
and red tape. Where oh well, I had 6 engineers look at
Exactly.
it. They didn't have any problem
Right.
with it.
Right,
What
right.
makes your opinion so different?
Right.
And like they have computers
like-
and all of this stuff.
Well,
what do you have?
they may have gone and looked at computers and done analysis and said, oh well, on paper this works.
Right.
But like, did they ever put 1,600 tons on some tarmac to see
Exactly.
if that worked?
They didn't promote the movie that way, and like this unsung hero who's like saving people.
Which is exactly
Maybe
what
that's
he
why.
was.
I thought it was going to be like, you know, the movie Space Cowboys with Clint Eastwood. Who else was in that? Was Richard Dreyfuss also in that? I think.
I don't know. I've never seen
I'm
the
not
movie.
sure.
Where they go back and they go into space, and it was very like comical. I thought this was going to be in that kind of style.
Well, that theme is not sexy.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
game is not going to have people.
That's what it's sexy to
See the
me.
story of
I
a
like that idea.
75-year-old man.
I think that's a great
saves
idea.
millions
No,
without
I like
even
it.
realizing it. Like, that's not the sexy part of the plot. The sexy thing that's going to get people to come in is the whole story of age, because that's something that's
Because people
very
relate to
prevalent.
that.
And that's
Right,
what's happening
It's
right
very
now.
prevalent there.
Yeah.
True.
You know?
So, I mean, what did you guys think of the supporting cast? Did you like the family? I thought the son was great.
I thought everybody in it was really good.
Yeah.
Even the grandson.
The grandson, yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
great too.
Yeah.
He was adorable.
He was a great little, yeah. And Colm Feore, who was the uptight billionaire, he was actually in Face Off. He played the doctor who performs the operation of John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. But but yeah,
All right, Randy, you don't have to show off.
it's just a random thing. But sweet story.
No, he's
really
in
good.
love with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. No, his career is insane, but yeah. But yeah, very sweet story. Guys, check out Astronaut.
Yes.
It's
Yes, definitely. This is
Yes.
probably one of the best under the radar films.
Yeah,
that
I
you've
didn't.
sent us,
bold
for
statement,
sure.
Mr. Commando.
I didn't dislike
it.
it or feel like I wanted to stop watching
Yeah.
it.
I
which is
loved it.
good.
Like, if I can watch the whole movie straight through and not get to a point where I'm hate watching it, where it's like, I've watched this for an
absolutely agree with
hour,
that.
and it's an hour and 45 minutes. I'm finishing this crap. If I don't get to that part, it's a good movie.
Cool. Well, see it, skip it, Amanda?
See it.
See it. Okay.
See it.
See it, and
See it.
yes, I say see it too. And it'll be in theaters, I think, in a limited release, actually July 26th. So guys, check that out.
Don't bring your
Astronaut.
grandparents.
No, you don't think it's a good idea?
No, because you'll walk out with them. Is your father going to put me in a hole?
maybe.
I don't know, Grandma. We're going to McDonald's now.
I
That
think
could
my
be.
grandpa would like this movie.
I think it's like a nice bonding.
I
experience.
think I want to go out in
I think he would
space.
love this movie.
Cool.
They'll start getting ideas to lie about their age to us.
Somebody's watching
My
this
grandpa's
right now.
much older than
Applications.
75.
That's awesome. Well, Richard Dreyfuss is fantastic. And he did another movie like this years ago in 2000. I think it was called The Crew, where he's like an aging mafia guy who teams up with like Burt Reynolds.
What a world we're living in that Richard Dreyfuss is now like
Yeah.
considered like too old to be doing
Right?
He's in the 70s.
real jobs. Yeah.
I just remember him in Jaws and Close Encounters. He was like our age.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good.
And now he's a grandfather.
He is.
He's getting a grandfather role.
It's like beyond that though. It's like
Yeah.
the disabled that you're not able to do anything wrong.
Poor guy.
What? He like...
No, but they're what I'm saying is like they made him appear in this like oh
Like, it
he's
looked
too old
like
to
when
do
he was
something. So
Uh-huh.
I'm saying
being
like
interviewed
Poor
by
guy.
Colin Mockery.
he looks great.
Friggin' whose line is it anyway?
What the hell was
Colin
that?
Mockery,
Right,
that
right,
was great. I thought he was going to like make fun of him for being old or something, and he didn't.
No. Or start
Oh, he
singing
had like a stroke
song.
during that interview
Doing
scene
some
or something,
improv.
didn't he?
What? I don't
It
know
looked like
why
he
they cast
stroked out.
him. Why did they cast him?
I don't know.
It was so
Wow, I didn't
weird.
know this made you so upset.
No, not upset.
I was bringing it up
But he
because
just
like,
didn't
what-
match.
It didn't fit. Yeah.
Well, like it fits if he's going to do something funny, and
Right.
Exactly.
it fit if he was going to like be like, oh yeah, you
With the whole black
you remember
background, I
when
thought they were gonna start making
You remember when they
jokes.
thought the Earth was flat, didn't you, Grandpa? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
But he's like not that much younger than him. So
Yeah, exactly.
Weird.
It's weird.
But Colin Mockery, as you guys
No,
know,
but still, like you just know he's gonna make fun of something.
yeah, like he has to be there for
I
comedy.
was
And
like,
it's
what
like,
was he doing in that?
I mean, he didn't do a bad
was
job.
a regular
He did
interview.
fine for what he was going to do.
We
It's like-
typecasted him in
I
our
don't think I've ever seen him in a
minds.
movie before.
Yeah.
Have you?
No, I don't think so either.
We literally
I've only ever
typecasted
seen
this
him
poor guy in our
do Whose
minds.
Line Is It Anyway,
Exactly.
or tweet about our president on Twitter.
So random. But okay, enough of Astronaut. I think we spent our allotted time on that, right? Enough time.
Weird. We actually want to talk about both movies.
Right?
I know.
feeling.
It doesn't happen often
Yeah.
on the show. Like,
First movie's like, all right, let's get the
get this
real
over
movie.
with.
yeah. Think about Dreyfuss all day. Whatever. All right, guys. The more interesting movie, the live-action Lion King, which is
That was
basically
CGI.
Is it CGI or no? Yeah, you're right.
It's
You're
like
right.
half CGI, half not.
I think the
I mean,
back-
they're gonna call it live action,
Yeah.
but it's
The
not
background
really.
might be live action.
It was. There were shots
Okay.
that were live action in
Yeah.
that
But
for sure.
technically, like
A lion
because
is
you're
not
using-
talking on the.
Well,
like,
yeah,
you're
clearly.
using CGI animals that look real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's such a semantically driven thing because there's no way you're making the Lion King live action.
Are you
Unless it's a nature
They just moved their
documentary.
mouth a little. That's it.
Well, no, unless
They
it's a
should've
nature
made it
documentary.
a
And
nature
you get two
documentary.
lions fighting each other, you're like, at the end, and Simba
This
takes
is like
on
another
Scar for the
episode of
throne.
Planet Earth.
Just make
Yeah.
a nature documentary.
Yeah, I know that some of the shots of like the scenery were
Get James Earl
actual.
Jones to narrate.
Yeah, they brought him back, which is awesome.
That's what they should have done.
But they did the live action background thing with the movie Dinosaur, Disney movie Dinosaur in 2000.
Yeah.
But the dinosaurs were obviously CGI. But
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't hire a real dinosaur.
Obviously.
Casting call for
This
a
is
T-Rex.
disappointing. How did they make the Jurassic Park movie? What were those dinosaurs?
We'll
Real.
Nick, I know you want to touch on the Jumanji 2 trailer because you just did the voice.
Well, there's two things I wanted to get across in this, in this
Yeah,
show.
uh-oh.
Number one, don't go see Cats. That trailer is terrifying. Number two, go see the second Jumanji. The Rock is going to do a Danny DeVito impression
Yep, and
for
it's
what
glorious.
looks like the whole movie.
Yeah, you didn't see the trailer?
No.
It's pretty crazy.
And
But I
Kevin
did see
Hart is
Cat.
going to do a Danny Glover impression. Like that, you can't leave that part out.
Yes, yes.
The
Why
only
is this a
problem
thing,
I have
Jack?
with it is apparently Jack Black is going to be the black kid.
Yeah.
No.
Well, he was
Yes.
he was the girl in the first one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Wait, so it's not like an
It's
actual
not the
sequel?
same exact character.
It's a sequel. Well,
But it's not the same
Like they're
characters.
connected.
They're
'cause
the
it's like
same
they're their
avatars.
grandkids. They're the grandparents.
Oh my God,
okay,
that's
there-
weird.
Yeah, like the players
I
who
didn't
become
know
the
what you guys are
avatars.
talking about.
Jumanji 2.
Yeah, the new.
Isn't it technically 3 because
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's
there's
true.
been
It's
2
a-
already?
It's
Well,
a
no,
loose
no,
So then
sequel.
it's 4
They're
then.
calling Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. They
Yeah.
call that a sequel to the original.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we
they
mentioned
do
stuff
reference.
And this
from
is
the
the third
original.
They
one.
reference the first movie.
So go see the third Jumanji. You've already seen the second one if you know what's good for you.
yeah.
The Rock does a Danny DeVito impression.
It's
Anyway,
great. I
back
would
to
just-
Under the Radar.
Back to this.
Lion King.
Lion
still-
King, guys. So everyone knows the story. It's a jungle version of Hamlet, and
I always forget that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
also parts of it are based off the Bible, too.
Oh, really?
True.
Mostly Hamlet, but some.
Hey, Hamlet and Jesus, two of the most controversial
Yeah,
people
I
in
think,
history.
I think it
so.
was Moses that it's based off of.
Oh, okay.
but close
He's
enough.
controversial, too.
Close
The
enough.
three of
yeah.
them at dinner. That'd be a great movie. Amanda, what did you think of the new Lion King?
I mean, it was an exact replica of the original movie.
Pretty much.
I did like the original movie.
Of course.
But I mean, I don't know. With all of these live actions, I feel like they're trying to get it where the next generation is going to go see it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like kids really like that animated feel. And
This was
with-
kind of adult in some aspects.
It was very
Part of
adult.
it
was
The metaphors
adult.
are all adult.
And the action scene, the fighting sequences between
Yeah.
the
I
lions
really
was
just
intense.
don't see kids being
Yeah.
appealed to this type
Though
of
there
movie.
were a number of kids in the theater when we saw it. So
I don't know if they would have liked. I don't know if
Yeah.
they
I
I don't
really
think there was a
grabbed
single.
it.
Oh, no,
them.
there was like a bunch of slightly under junior high aged girls in the theater. Other
We
than that,
saw
it was
some
all adults.
really young kids, like 6 or 7 years old, and they were not grabbed at all.
Yeah, of course not.
Seeing this as an adult, I don't know if I would show this to a kid. It just,
That there was an article that just came out today where the father was like, "Don't take your kids to Lion King. The scene with Mufasa is too much. You remember how you were traumatized as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's worse with live action."
So, but like
action.
in general,
Live
though, like
action.
so. I don't necessarily feel this way, but overall, I would say the general population thinks that Lion King is like the best Disney film
Ever.
animated. It's always voted number one.
It
It's not my
was.
favorite, but
It
I
was.
know that it's
For me, I think it's The Little Mermaid and Aladdin's
But
tied.
so,
yeah.
but overall, most
But
people
they
say
did
the Lion
say it,
King.
yeah.
Okay.
And this, to me, just felt extremely lackluster. That's the best way I can describe
There's
it.
no like
if
soul.
we're comparing
there
it to
was
the other,
nothing. There
that's
was
true.
nothing about it to
It's
me
the
that was
same-
as good as like the animated one. Is not my favorite, but there's a lot of things about it that make it really memorable. If this were standing alone without everybody being like, I love the original Lion King, I don't think there'd be anything memorable about this at all.
Yeah. The only memorable
agree.
thing, I think Timon and Pumbaa were handled great.
Right,
They
but their
were great.
characters are already memorable from
Yeah.
True,
the
true.
animation.
Everyone
Do you know
loves
what I'm
Timon
saying?
But I think
Pumbaa.
Right.
Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner did a great job.
No,
It's not the
they
cast.
absolutely nailed Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah.
They really did.
They nailed them.
Yeah,
Like,
that was my favorite part.
It wasn't the cast, it was just the way it was presented just
Yeah.
was
Because I
not that
if we're-
exciting.
if
The
we're
editing
going-
wasn't so great. So
Right, yeah.
Because if we're going based on the voices, like if we're going based on the casting, like the people did really good.
They
you
did
could
great,
tell, you
yeah.
could tell the voices, you could hear the voices.
Very
They were
appropriate
really
voice.
Good.
Oh, baby
Yeah.
Simba, child Simba was great.
All of
yeah,
them
they were all
were
really
great.
good,
Yeah.
but
It was just the idea of seeing the animals and like you didn't get the movements of them correctly, or the facial expressions of them.
Could their mouths move? I didn't even.
You could barely see if their mouths
to
could move. You were saying how you couldn't really tell the
problem
difference
with
between
these
them.
Another thing is that like I had a hard time differentiating who is talking unless I specifically had their voice. Like all the women lines look the same, so it was like, oh, that's Beyonce, so that must be Nala. Like I shouldn't be thinking that though while I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
Right. So you're basically trying to identify who's Alfred Woodard,
that was just too much
who's Beyonce.
stress. Yeah, exactly.
The problem with a film like this is like animals in real life don't have that expressive of faces.
Right.
So when you watch, because I watched the cartoon version the night before we went to see the live action.
Smart.
And I have this amazing skill where I don't remember things, and I completely forgot everything about the animated version. So when I watched it, I was like, was this in the animated? And my fiance was like, yeah, it was. We watched it last night. I'm like, stop telling me that. So, like, but you don't get, like, when Scar says something, it's really just the sinister tone that he takes that you're really supposed to follow. But a movie like this, it's not going to work as well because you need to have those facial expressions to really give you the gravity of the situation.
That's why the anime movie is so good. With Jeremy Irons' voice combined with that animation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it also allows for like the dance numbers to be better. Like I just can't wait to be king.
The singing was
like,
too over the top.
You're supposed to be dancing with them.
The song sequences were off.
Singing,
because you can't have animals dancing
it's hard.
in that way.
It was like, you know when Scar...
you can't have them stack themselves on top of each other.
You can. It's hard.
You know the song "Be Prepared"?
Yeah.
They totally ruined that song.
Scar was like just talking.
He talks
and in the middle of it, he starts. It's like
he
weird.
was like talking.
Everybody I went to see the movie with, we all said the same thing. "Be Prepared" in the cartoon is a really great song musically.
Yeah.
It's number one, it's scary,
Yep.
and number two, it's sang really well, and number three, musically written, like in music theory, it's a pretty good song.
They glazed over
so
it.
this, they were like, he said, "Be prepared" like one time, and then we were like, all right, I guess we're prepared to take action now.
To me, it felt like they changed that scene because in the cartoon, it was already kind of assumed and understood that he was in cahoots with the hyenas.
They kind of just
this version, it felt like he was trying to. No, but this version, it felt like he was trying to galvanize them and like form the alliance right there.
Right. That's where
like in the cartoon,
first met them
it was
there.
already established.
Right.
Okay, these people.
This
are
is their
working.
first
Another
encounter.
thing is,
Yeah.
I haven't seen the
which is, I think,
animated
what
one.
led to them changing the song.
Okay.
Because I think what he was trying to do was like pitch himself as the leader.
Okay.
And that's why it was
Where in the cartoon he was already the leader.
It was
also,
off.
it's entirely possible that
weird.
Chiwetel Ejiofor, who played Scar, does not have the same singing capabilities that either Jeremy Irons or whoever they used as his singing voice did.
Yeah.
Which is why they did.
I think Irons sang it.
Which might have also been why they changed the song. Not that it really is a valid excuse, because A, Jeremy Irons is still alive, and you probably could have used him.
That's true.
He is alive.
But also, why not just splurge and get somebody to sing that role?
I know,
who has
you
an
have
English
Beyonce
accent?
singing "Can You Feel the Love Tonight." I'm sure you could find somebody to sing.
Which I didn't think
prepared.
that was a great rendition.
The other problem that I had was they just put too much like stank on the songs.
Yeah.
Like when he sang "I Just Can't Wait to Be King," I don't need you to throw your voice around like that at random points.
They made a joke about that. Timon and Pumbaa.
Oh, now he's ripping.
He's ripping now. It was just like, what is this?
I was like,
Because he wasn't supposed to be a singer. It was just
like
a kid
you don't
singing.
I get it. You have Beyonce.
Yeah.
But you don't need her to sing like Beyonce.
I think she just sang one song too.
Well, the other thing, I just saw a headline before we started filming that Donald Glover and Beyonce didn't record the songs together.
They were in the
They
booth?
Because Glover was doing solo and Beyonce was doing Coachella.
Yeah,
so they didn't have the opportunity to actually record together.
I mean, that's a lot of
That's what made it feel off to me.
But that's a lot of collaboration.
I don't understand how that's a thing that happens. You couldn't have
you signed a contract to be in this.
Yeah, there couldn't be a day where she goes to the set of Solo, or he goes to Coachella, and you guys just do something.
No.
Yeah.
But Timon and Pumbaa were absolutely nailed
great.
because as much as I thought why isn't Nathan Lane brought back for this, Billy Eichner was fantastic. He
really
was just a
was.
really tired old queen who was just sick of everybody's crap. And it was fantastic. And Seth Rogen played Pumbaa fantastically because he was just an idiot.
Such great characters.
Who did you think was the voice of Pumbaa?
The guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, Jeff Garland. That's what she thought it was.
Sounding like Jeff Garland.
He looks like
in so many different aspects. I was like, this sounds just like that guy.
New Yorkish voice. They have a very similar vocal pattern where it would make sense
But
to hear from them.
I like
just
Rogen.
them talking makes you laugh.
Yeah.
I did think cinematography.
You thought you were dead. I thought I was dead.
She's my best friend. Best friend.
That hurts.
I love them.
My favorite part will forever be, oh, he's riffing now, Pumbaa.
That's what I
Yeah.
laughed the
It
most
was
too.
just so...
Because I know everyone was feeling
Because
the
that
same way.
Like, if you've seen Billy Eichner do anything else, that, like, encapsulates him perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I've only seen Billy on the Street.
Well, he also has a turn in Parks and Recreation.
Oh, where he's like this, like really aggressive,
Yeah, I
like
think
weird
it was
guy.
when Eagleton and Pawnee merge, and all of the Parks Department people from Eagleton come over, or whatever that is, and he plays like a very similar version of the character where he's just uppity for no reason.
That's funny.
So it's just very much like, okay, what can we do with these voices to like establish that character?
Yeah.
And with Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen, they just did it perfectly
Yeah.
because Seth
They were
Rogen's
great.
just that guy that he's just going to come up with something funny out of nowhere, or he's going to deliver a line out of nowhere that just gives you a big laugh.
Yeah.
And Billy Eichner is just going to be really impatient and just, I don't have time for this.
Right,
And but it's in such a funny, charming way.
They were great.
I don't know. I feel like some of the casting was fine, but maybe some of the names they just pulled in just because of the names, where it could have been done a
Well,
little
I
bit
thought
better.
John Oliver was spot on.
Yeah, John Oliver was
He
fantastic.
was perfect.
Red alert, we have somebody incoming. Oh, never mind, that's my
The Shadow.
But I feel like some of them weren't. Like, I don't know. Like, Beyonce's voice is so characteristic that the whole time I was just like, okay, this is Beyonce.
That's what I said before. I couldn't
didn't
tell
see
who
it
was
as
talking
in-
unless I knew it was Beyonce's
And I mean, that
voice.
kind of sucks for her because that
Yeah.
means she can't really
It felt
voice
like
over a lot
it
of
felt like
things.
James Earl
But
Jones was kind of phoning it in.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
And it felt
Yeah.
like Beyonce just, they didn't give her any,
She was barely in it.
like they didn't, well they also, I don't
It's
think
not
they
really
gave her
isn't
a
that
ton
in
of
it that
direction.
much to begin
Not
with.
in the original, no.
Yeah.
I don't think they also gave her like any direction on what to do with the character.
They were like,
'cause
"You're Beyonce."
It
just
just,
talk."
Yeah, pretty
but
much.
do you know that,
Because it didn't feel
you're,
like-
you're an actress. Do you know that voice that people put on when they're acting?
Yes.
Where they're
Yes.
just like, I believe. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not.
Very
That's what I'm
theatrical.
saying. I feel like they were like, "You're
Yeah.
Beyonce, just get in the booth and we'll come
because
back
it
in
didn't
20
feel like a
minutes."
character. It felt like Beyonce.
Well, she is the biggest name here. I mean, maybe James Earl Jones is the biggest name.
It's hard.
It depends how to.
It's hard because when you look at the poster, they both have an "and," so it's
like
hard
the,
to tell.
The decisions they made on the changes that they made to it, because there were slight changes to things.
Right.
Yeah.
It just felt like, why did you change that?
Yeah.
Like the whole scene in the original where Rafiki hits Simba in the head with a stick, and he goes, "What was that?" It doesn't matter. It's in the past. That would have been a perfect. That would have been a really good scene to see.
Yeah, there were a couple lines that they
I wanted.
changed.
Yeah.
That I wanted to see
That I
come
know.
back.
You
Timon
could've
and
seen
Pumbaa,
it.
they sang something different. Oh, they didn't say our trio's down to 2,
Yeah.
which is like a really memorable lyric, I feel
No,
like.
he said
because
that.
No, they said it.
Wait, maybe
There
it wasn't that one. There was something they
I
didn't
feel
say.
downhearted every time that I farted.
There wasn't that one though. There was another line that I remember from. I wish I could remember what
That
it was
they
now.
didn't
part
And they
almost
didn't say it, and
felt-
I was waiting for it the whole time, and I was like, why does this not feel like the right song? Like they changed some lyrics to a
changed
couple
all the
things.
There
lyrics.
were a lot of lyrics, that I wanted, like a lot of lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
that
That
didn't show
part
up.
about the farted part, that part almost felt like they made a mistake when they were recording.
No.
And like Seth Rogen,
They were like,
Billy Eichner was supposed to interrupt him, and he didn't. And Seth Rogen finished the line, and then he looks at him and goes, "Aren't you going to interrupt me?"
I think it was.
That felt like I'm sure it was written. I'm
Yeah,
sure they did it
it
as
was an
written.
in-joke.
But at the
felt
same
wrong,
time,
yeah.
too, like
That's
it
funny.
you could kind of feel like, but something like when Sarabi is like begging Scar to like change things.
Wait, Sarabi is the
the
hyena?
mother.
Yeah, the mother.
The mother.
Like,
okay,
when,
yeah, yeah.
like when she's begging him, like, please, stop overhunting or whatever. Like that part just felt stupid.
Yeah.
Like you could have just left the scene in with the hyenas when the
know what
hyenas
else
are like,
felt
"There's no food."
A little odd, which I don't think they really talked about in the animated movie, but in this one it just felt weird. Maybe because I'm an adult now. But Simba went missing for like, what was it? Supposed to be like 10 years, let's just say.
In-
and
in-
but Nala
in lion
found
years.
him in like a day. Like
Yeah.
not that far away from
Right.
where they were. She was like, oh, Simba, have you been here? Like less than a mile away this entire time.
Yeah.
He's just in a neighboring
Because
village.
they didn't look.
Yeah, but it just felt.
He's
felt
dead,
not
let's move
realistic.
on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also the kind of the informality, I think, of like the animal kingdom, where like if it
He's
was
dead,
us, we
move
would
on.
spend all this time looking for him if he was a real person.
Right.
But I think
Animals,
with like
like, once
lions and
something's
all
missing-
that,
I don't know,
they're
that
just like,
just felt
"Ah,
really
well, he's
odd.
dead. Oh well, let's
They
just
would
have another one."
Zazu would have
Move
formed a
on.
search party for
But
that.
their sense of smell is better. So I don't know. Just something about that
Yeah.
felt really weird.
Yeah.
They were like, let's just go over this log. Oh, here's a whole world of lush greenery that we haven't seen yet.
They should have referenced the original film better because this
I agree.
But maybe they were trying to show that was the whole point of having a king. Like he
I'm
was
sure
in
that
charge.
is what they
like
were
if
doing.
Mufasa was there, he would have turned over every stone to look for his son.
It just felt odd. I don't know.
So because there wasn't a real king there, they didn't care.
There of like the hyenas taking over,
So they
and
didn't
having
have
to
time
deal with
to
that,
go.
and Scar kind of being a bad ruler. It was like
True.
they were
True.
just.
You just watched this the other night, but I also felt like the hyenas were funnier in the animated one.
Oh, they were definitely funny.
Super annoying.
Whoopi Goldberg, Jim Cummings, and a
But I
third.
mean, even just the lines were
Marin.
funnier.
They were totally funnier.
Yeah.
Here
you
they
barely
were like,
hated
It was awkward. Like they had those two hyenas who were like, just having weird conversations.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, like Keegan Michael Key and Eric Andre, it's like
Yeah.
those were the two that like I think Eric Andre was the one that kept sitting really close to him.
yeah, personal space.
It was like they were taking a completely different. Like it was almost like those two were friends.
Yeah.
But then the third one was just like their boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. There wasn't like a trio. It
Nope.
was like
Two and then one.
like why do you have?
but just their
Because in
lines
the
just
animated,
felt
like you barely hated them
uncomfortable.
because they were funny.
They were funny, and this one was like,
You
why
hated
is people
them.
so awkward? I don't know.
It was just a.
It was weird.
They really leaned
Yeah.
into the whole just make them blithering idiots in the live action compared to the cartoon.
Now,
It was
guys,
crazy.
this
I mean,
was-
I haven't seen all of them because I didn't see Dumbo and I didn't see Beauty and
That
the
was
Beast.
okay. It was weird. It was Tim Burton, so it was.
But I mean, I watched Aladdin. I really liked
I loved
Aladdin a lot
Aladdin.
more.
Cinderella is still my favorite of the live actions.
Okay.
Have you seen Jungle Book?
I didn't, and that was actually also directed by John
Jungle Book was
Favreau.
very good.
See,
He
the
did this.
interesting thing about Jungle Book for me is that I really don't care for the original Jungle Book. It's just not my thing. It's not bad. I don't like it. But I thought the live action was done well, and that could be because I had no preconception of what I was seeing.
Now, how was it compared to the 1994 Jungle Book with who was the villain?
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Carrie Elways plays the villain, and I think Tim Curry's in it too, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to say the 94 one's better just because I feel like it was more of a storyline, but
Yeah.
the 2016, is that when Jungle Book, the
Something like
new one
that.
came out?
Yeah, that one I saw.
I just think we were at a point where we didn't have that many live actions happening, so it was
Yeah.
like, wow, we're doing a live action version.
It was
so
like the first
there was
one
no preconceptions
of the era.
And now they're just coming
Yeah.
back to back to back.
I was saying to you before, it's another really weird thing. The Lion King came out 30 seconds after Aladdin.
Yeah.
Like, now they're not even waiting a year. They're like, a
No,
month's fine.
they're acting like Marvel now.
I think Aladdin is
Back
still
to
in
back.
theaters too.
It is still in theaters.
Yeah.
It came out Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
They're acting like Marvel. That's what Marvel does.
Yeah. I liked Aladdin.
You have this
one was
movie, then
just
2
okay.
months later you
Well, they
have
also
another
know
one.
what's coming too. They also know, I think, at the end what the finished product's going to be.
Yeah.
They know they'll make some money, but they
Yeah.
know it might get panned and stuff.
What's
so that
really
might also
odd,
be
too,
why they
is they've
lump
been doing them in
together.
order.
Yeah.
Like, from the year they were released of
They
the
haven't
animated one.
been. No.
They have been.
They haven't.
Yeah, so Beauty and the Beast came out in 91. Aladdin came out in
That's why
92.
Moana's next.
Right.
And
Lion King was 94.
Lion King was 94. They're skipping Hercules and Hunchback, which I think is because
Of the
they're putting them on Broadway, those two shows.
Or also because of the Notre Dame incident.
Yeah, they would have already had it in
Yeah.
production though, but I think they're
But that's one of my
fighting
favorite.
for them on Broadway right now. So they're
Those
skipping right over to
two-
Mulan, which would be 1998. So we're getting
Yeah.
like
Wait, when was
Tarzan.
Pocahontas?
94.
I
so
think
93.
too-
No,
Skip
96.
95. It's in there
It was
somewhere.
right after.
They're skipping those middle ones.
Oh, you're right, 95. I'm sorry.
Well, the
Yeah.
other
Yeah, why are
thing
they
too, I
skipping-
think, is like with the political climate and everything. I think they're trying to get like the more racially diverse ones. I think
Well,
they're
yeah, but then
probably
they
trying to
went
get
and
those out of the way
changed-
first
They
too.
made the Little Mermaid
With
black.
Little
so
Mermaid.
they're gonna skip over
Okay.
Pocahontas. So let's.
Right.
We
Yeah.
could have just done Pocahontas and done a
No,
really
but I
great
mean,
job.
like with Hercules
Yeah.
and Hunchback.
Why didn't you do Pocahontas?
Those are
They're
primarily.
picking like Mulan.
Yeah,
No, I get what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but it's just funny because you could have done Pocahontas.
Yeah,
but instead you were
which
like, let's
would've
do the
been
Little
accurate.
Mermaid,
Right.
and then like we'll make a whole big political problem out of this
So
one.
crazy.
Well, they did
the
a
same girl could have played Pocahontas.
Yeah, that's true.
So
But they did a non-Disney Hercules a few years ago with The Rock. Just side note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know. I remember
But
that.
That's one of
I
those stories
remember
too.
that.
Like Hercules and Tarzan, like they've been done
Yeah.
so many times because
Yeah.
the stories themselves didn't really belong to Disney, so
Right.
people were able to do
So you
that.
can't even,
Well,
it's
like-
harder.
But
Yeah.
Mulan's the next one.
Next,
Also,
well,
they
unless you
did,
count
if
Maleficent.
Dwayne Johnson had
Unless
to
you
sing
count Maleficent.
songs in Hercules, like I can go the distance.
Dwayne Johnson.
I would pay money
Did
to
he
see
sing
that.
songs in Moana? He was.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
did.
Yeah, you know.
Check.
Yeah. He basically sang a song you'd expect him to sing.
Yeah. Noted.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. They have a lot of interesting ones coming up. There's talks of a Lilo and Stitch live action.
It's gonna be insane.
Yeah, that's out there. They're
I can
see
doing
that, though.
Tinkerbell live action. They're talking
No.
about Pinocchio live action.
They'll go on forever.
Pinocchio
You know how
sounds
many
like
movies
a
Disney
ready-made
has?
Tim Burton. Like
Oh, yeah, I
Pinocchio
see
sounds
that.
like a
I
Tim
see
Burton
that.
special.
Yeah.
Like,
I see that.
that feels to me like something Tim Burton would just like jump on.
Yeah.
Edward
Just
Scissorhands
like-
is basically Pinocchio.
Yeah,
I see that.
that sounds
Frozen
like
2 is coming out next.
Nice. And live action
Frozen 2,
Frozen
not live
probably
action,
around
just
there.
regular.
Is a live action Frozen in the works?
No,
Yeah,
we have the
not.
Frozen,
The
the live action
Broadway.
Frozen to look forward to about 15 years from now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's what I'm
That'd be
saying.
Broadway has
It wouldn't
it
be
right
now.
So
Yeah,
they have a hard time taking the Broadway if it's on Broadway.
Yeah.
Like I know Lion King and Aladdin are both on Broadway right now, but it was like kind of a big controversial deal to make them into movies because they're on Broadway. So
Yeah.
They've also been on Broadway for a long
That's
time.
why they're
Like,
really
I think
doing
they
it
did.
now,
I
yeah.
think Lion King's been on Broadway since I was in like middle school.
Yeah.
Since the
Early
mid 90s.
2000s.
Since
Yeah.
the time of the first movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the Broadway show is amazing.
Yeah,
though.
it's good. All right, guys. 4 minutes left. Just want to go around if we have any plugs we want to make. Amanda, anything this week?
no, nothing this week.
All
Trying
right.
to think.
That's cool. Jennifer.
I mean, as always, I'm still dressing up for hospitals,
Oh,
and
good.
so if you want to look at me in costume, you can follow me on Instagram at j.co100. I'm also directing 2 shows. I'm casting 2 shows, and I'm going to be in a couple things coming up.
Okay.
But there's too many to list.
What
So
are you casting for?
I'm casting for a new musical that's in Manhattan.
Okay.
It's called Seven Princesses. It's based on a children's book. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I can't talk too much about it because
Okay.
it's literally we're like in the casting process right now.
All right.
But yeah, no, it's fun doing new musicals is a lot of fun because there's no storyline you have to adhere to. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like this is the original, so there's nothing like
So
live
you're
action
basically-
Lion King.
You're
so-
sort of writing it as you go in a way?
well, they wrote it. I'm just
Okay.
casting it. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
part of the artistic. Well, I guess that's technically the artistic team, but I mean, I'm not part of the creating it. But I'm
Okay.
saying it's fun to cast something that you don't have anybody to compare it to prior to that.
Yeah.
So we're saying Beyonce was Nala, but there's been another million Nalas before her.
Okay.
These are all original characters, all new people. So the first person that's doing this will be the first person to ever get to play this role. So.
That's cool.
And is it kids or younger people?
No, the cast is in their 20s,
Okay.
or will be in their 20s, but they're playing the parts of little kids, so it's kind of
That's
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Nick, anything on the horizon?
Yeah, we working with Eternal Alliance Studios, The Wingman. We're still working on filming that. You'll see Jen in that, hopefully, if we can get our ish together. Wrestling podcast about wrestling. I'm probably going to go home and record an episode of that now. I just watched AEW show Fight for the Fallen. I'll review that. The Nick's List movie podcast. We're still doing stuff with that, putting some stuff in the can to release after that. And Twitter and Instagram at Nick Comando, 1M. I'm not the Schwarzenegger movie, and I never will be.
I love it. Never gets old, Mr. Commando.
Well, it does, but you guys are just nice.
I love it. No, I love it.
Because you're a nice person.
Oh, thank you. And some sponsor mentions for Magnitude Jewelry. July 28th is the Awaken Fair at the Roger Smith Hotel in New York City. September 20th to 22nd, the Yoga Festival at Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And then in October, you've got the New Life Expo in New York City as well, which is awesome. This is a great festival. It's like yogis and gurus and like massage therapists and crystals.
Will Boo Boo be there?
Who? What?
Boo Boo?
Boo Boo? I don't
Said
know.
Yogi will be there.
Oh, maybe. We'll see. I'll get back to you on that.
All right, good.
But it's just a really cool festival, and we'll have more details for that one. And also the Heart Freedom Expo in Chicago, Illinois. More info for that. And we actually have 1 minute left, and I just want to go around if there's any movies that are coming up that you'd want to mention, Nick?
The remake of Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is coming out for Nintendo Switch. I'm excited about that. It's not a movie, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Zelda? I never got into Zelda.
What?
Well, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I was more of a Mario and Tetris guy, to be
You
honest.
could like all of those things at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's like, my focus was on one thing.
Yeah.
I had 2 games, one in each hand. One was Mario, one was Tetris.
Right?
That's it. Time to go
Jen-
to sleep.
I mean, I'm just waiting for Frozen 2 to come out.
Frozen 2? It's coming
Yeah.
out this
October,
Christmas?
November.
Okay.
It's in that area.
Okay, should be
so,
fun. New songs, I guess.
Yeah, new costumes for me to dress up as.
Nice, good. Even better. And Amanda, anything?
It Chapter 2.
Oh, nice. Good one.
Can't wait.
Awesome.
Movie?
It Chapter 2.
Oh, God.
Yes.
I'm a no-go on
Too
that.
scary, too scary.
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, sadly, that about does it for this week. I want to thank everyone. Thank you. You guys have been great. You're always great. You're always welcome here. You know that.
Thank you.
And I've been your host, Randy Unger, and this has been another issue. This
has been another issue with Unger the Raider.
Another edition of Unger the Raider. Thank you guys, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Under the Radar is all new next week with more movie reviews and interviews on Strong Island Radio and Television. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.